Somewhere on this planet, entire cities have been shrunk down to the size of a living room, whole continents rebuilt at your feet, and famous landmarks small enough to hold in your hand. These are the 12 most incredible miniature worlds ever built. Stay until number 1, because the last one is a park so vast it recreates half the globe in a single afternoon. We are counting down from number 12 to number 1, from a quiet English garden village to a sprawling park that rebuilds the entire planet at half scale. Each one turns imagination into something you can walk through. Number 12, Beaconscot Model Village. Tucked into the English countryside, this is the oldest model village on Earth, a miniature 1930s England frozen in time since it first opened its tiny gates. Opened in 1929, Beaconscot is the oldest continuously operating model village in the world, nearly a century of tiny life frozen in a single moment of English history. Every cottage, church, and shopfront is built at a precise 1:12 scale, small enough to see the whole village in one glance, detailed enough to spot every tiny chimney pot. A working miniature railway loops through the entire village, its tiny locomotive puffing rail smoke past shrunken train stations no taller than a house cat. Full-sized gardeners tend thousands of miniature plants trimmed to match the scale of the buildings, tiny hedges, and flower beds kept perfectly in proportion year-round. Every penny of admission has funded charity since it opened, making this tiny village one of the most quietly generous tourist attractions on the planet. Look closely and you will find over 1,000 miniature figures frozen mid-task, tiny postmen, farmers, and cricket players caught forever in a single English afternoon. Nearly 100 years on, Beaconscot remains the quiet grandparent of every miniature world that followed, proving small ideas can last the longest. Number 11, a shrunken Dutch coastal town where windmills spin at a fraction of their true size and tiny fishing boats bob in a harbour smaller than a bathtub. Each miniature windmill actually turns in the wind, tiny wooden blades spinning in perfect scale, powered by nothing but the same breeze that moves the real ones. Real water flows through the miniature canals, tiny bridges arching over channels barely wider than a dinner plate, reflecting every shrunken rooftop above. A miniature fishing harbour holds dozens of tiny boats, each one hand-painted with the same fading colours as the real vessels that inspired them. Every building takes master model makers months to complete, sculpting brick by miniature brick until each structure matches its real counterpart down to the doorknob. At dusk, thousands of tiny lights flicker on inside every miniature building, turning the whole village into a glowing constellation across the display floor. Visitors tower over the entire town like giants, able to step over a windmill or peer straight down a church steeple in a single stride. The quiet clack of tiny wooden shoes on miniature cobblestones exists only in imagination, but the detail is so complete it feels like the town could wake up any moment. Number 10, Miniaturk. On the shores of the Golden Horn in Istanbul, over 100 of Turkey's greatest monuments stand rebuilt in miniature, from ancient ruins to modern bridges. More than 130 miniature models span the park, covering 4,000 years of history from ancient Anatolia to the modern Turkish Republic. A miniature Hagia Sophia rises in perfect detail, its shrunken dome and minarets capturing 15 centuries of history in a structure you could carry under one arm. Even the massive Bosphorus Bridge appears in miniature, its suspension cables shrunk to threads, spanning a model strait barely wider than a hallway. The park sits directly at the Golden Horn, so real water borders the miniature coastline, blurring the line between the shrunken world and the real one beyond it. Each model took teams of sculptors and historians working together, cross-checking ancient blueprints just to get a single miniature column proportion correct. After sunset, the entire park transforms, thousands of tiny lights illuminating every miniature dome and tower across the shoreline like a scattered galaxy. Built to let visitors experience the breadth of an entire nation's history in a single walk, Miniaturk turns centuries of empire into an afternoon stroll. Number 9. Swiss Miniature. Beside a real alpine lake, the entire nation of Switzerland has been rebuilt at 1/25th scale, mountains, trains, and all. A miniature Matterhorn rises above the park, its jagged peak sculpted stone by stone to mirror the real mountain that towers over Switzerland's skyline. Miniature versions of Switzerland's famous mountain railways actually run on real track, tiny red trains climbing shrunken slopes exactly as they do in real life. The park sits directly on the shore of Lake Lugano, so the real Alps rise in the background behind their own miniature reflection, a landscape mirroring itself. Over 120 famous Swiss landmarks appear in miniature, from tiny lakeside castles to shrunken cable cars suspended on threads of real cable. Everything is built at exactly 1/25th scale, precise enough that engineers used the same blueprints as the original structures to guarantee accuracy. Thousands of real bonsai trees are trimmed to match the miniature scale, tiny forests that took decades of careful pruning to shrink convincingly. In under an hour, visitors walk the length of an entire country, crossing shrunken borders between cantons that would normally take days to drive. Number 8. Legoland Miniland. Where other parks use clay and resin, this one rebuilds entire cities from millions of tiny plastic bricks, snapped together one click at a time. Every building here is constructed from real Lego bricks, some models using well over 1 million individual pieces snapped together by hand. Famous skylines from around the world appear rebuilt in brick, tiny New York towers and European old towns standing beside each other in painstaking plastic detail. Master builders spend months on a single model, sketching, prototyping, and snapping bricks together layer by layer until a full city block emerges. Tiny brick vehicles roll along real tracks and miniature harbors host brick boats that actually float, turning static bricks into a living moving city. Millions of tiny minifigures populate the scenes, frozen mid-stride crossing brick crosswalks or waving from miniature brick balconies above the street. Built in the same Danish town where Lego itself was born, this miniature world sits just steps from the factory that molds every one of its bricks. Some Miniland versions recreate entire countries brick by brick, turning a walk through the park into a journey across continents built from plastic. If these miniature worlds already seem impossible, remember we have only reached the halfway point. The deeper we go, the more ambitious and detailed these tiny worlds become. Number 7. Italy in miniature. Along Italy's Adriatic coast, the entire boot-shaped nation has been rebuilt at true-to-scale proportion, canals, colosseums, and all. A miniature colosseum stands with every archway carved in place, small enough to view all 4 levels at once, something impossible standing before the real ruin. A shrunken Venice sits beside real flowing water, tiny gondolas gliding down miniature canals between buildings barely taller than a bookshelf. The park mirrors Italy's actual geography, tiny Alps rising in the north and shrunken coastline stretching south, compressing the whole nation into one walkable loop. Unlike quieter model villages, this park blends miniature landmarks with full-size rides, letting visitors ride a real roller coaster past a tiny leaning tower. Over 5,000 miniature buildings and 270,000 tiny trees and plants make up the park's meticulously trimmed landscape. Opened in 1970, the park was one of the first anywhere to combine an entire country's landmarks with real amusement rides in one experience. Visitors can cross the miniature nation from the Alps to Sicily in under 20 minutes, a journey that would take a full day to drive in real life. Number 6. Tobu World Square. In the mountains of Japan, 102 of the world's greatest structures stand together at 1/25th scale, populated by over 140,000 tiny people. 102 UNESCO World Heritage Sites and famous landmarks are rebuilt here, letting one small park hold monuments from 6 continents at once. More than 140,000 tiny figurines populate the scenes, a miniature population larger than many real towns, each one hand-placed. A miniature Taj Mahal gleams in white stone detail, its domes and minarets shrunk to fit inside a space smaller than a tennis court. Nearby, the Egyptian pyramids rise in miniature sand-colored stone, close enough to Japan's own miniature temples that visitors cross continents in a few steps. Each model is built using the same materials as the real structure, real stone, real metal, and real glass shrunk down to exact 1/25th proportions. A dedicated Japan zone captures the nation's own icons in miniature, from Tokyo Tower to ancient castles, honoring the host country among world wonders. Walking the full park takes hours, an entire globe's worth of architecture compressed into paths winding through Japanese mountain scenery. Number 5. Mini Siam. Southeast Asia's greatest temples and the world's most famous landmarks stand together in this Thai park, split cleanly between 2 halves of the globe. The park is split into 2 zones, Mini Siam showcasing Thailand's own temples and palaces, and Mini Europe rebuilding the West's most famous monuments nearby. Golden miniature temples glitter under the tropical sun, their tiered roofs and gilded spires capturing centuries of Thai architectural tradition in careful detail. A shrunken Big Ben stands not far from a miniature Eiffel Tower, letting visitors stroll from London to Paris to Bangkok within a single afternoon. Thai artisans hand-paint every miniature temple in gold leaf detail, the same techniques used on full-size royal palaces applied at a fraction of the scale. After dark, colorful lights transform the entire park, tiny temples and landmarks glowing in a rainbow of colors reflected across ornamental ponds. Opened in 1986, Mini Siam was one of the first parks to blend a nation's own heritage with the wider world's landmarks side by side. More than 100 miniature structures span the grounds, turning a single ticket into a shrunken tour spanning 2 very different halves of the world. Number 4. Beijing World Park. On the outskirts of China's capital, over 100 famous landmarks from every continent stand rebuilt across sprawling manicured grounds. More than 100 famous monuments from over 50 countries are rebuilt here, spread across grounds large enough to need a shuttle train between sections. A miniature Eiffel Tower rises above manicured French-style gardens, tall enough to photograph from a distance yet small enough to fit in a single frame. Nearby, a shrunken Sydney Opera House curves in gleaming white, its sail-shaped roof sculpted in precise miniature detail beside artificial harbour water. Ancient wonders stand beside modern skyscrapers, a miniature Angkor only steps from a shrunken Manhattan skyline, centuries collapsing into one afternoon. Some models tower over visitors while others sit knee-high, the park intentionally mixing scales so every landmark feels individually impressive. Thousands of manicured trees and flower beds separate each miniature region, giving the illusion of genuine distance between continents packed into one park. Built to let citizens experience global architecture without leaving the country, the park has welcomed millions who may never visit the real originals. The top 3 are the miniature parks that took decades and thousands of workers to build. The next one recreates an entire country at a scale you can walk across in minutes. Number 3. France Miniature. The entire nation of France has been rebuilt at 1/30th scale on a map-shaped park shaped exactly like the country itself. Unlike other parks, this one is physically shaped like the map of France itself, so every miniature landmark sits in its true geographic position. A miniature Mont Saint-Michel rises from real shallow water, its abbey and ramparts sculpted in painstaking stone-like detail atop a tiny rocky island. The miniature Eiffel Tower sits exactly where Paris belongs on the shrunken map, precisely positioned relative to every other landmark around it. 117 miniature monuments represent every region of France, from Alsatian villages to Provençal lavender fields shrunk into neat rows. At 1/30th scale, visitors can cross the entire miniature nation on foot in under 2 hours, a journey that spans the real country's full length. Model makers cross-referenced satellite imagery and architectural blueprints to ensure every miniature building sat in its correct real-world coordinates. Even the miniature train network mirrors France's real railway map, tiny locomotives following the same routes as the country's actual high-speed lines. Number 2, Miniland at Legoland Windsor. Beyond the brick sculptures lies one of the most ambitious miniature achievements ever attempted, an entire miniature London built from over 60 million individual bricks. The full Miniland collection across the park uses more than 60 million Lego bricks, an amount of plastic that would circle a small miniature world twice over. A miniature tower bridge actually raises and lowers on command, its brick towers and moving roadway engineered to function exactly like the real crossing. A model River Thames winds through the display, real water flowing past brick embankments lined with tiny replica boats and riverside buildings. Big Ben rises in careful brick detail, its clock face built from hundreds of tiny plastic pieces, each one snapped precisely into the tower's curved silhouette. A dedicated model shop team spends years designing each new addition, prototyping in digital software before a single physical brick is ever placed. Tiny brick minifigures recreate famous royal ceremonies and everyday London life, frozen mid-scene along brick streets and royal parade routes. New sections are added constantly, meaning this miniature world never stops growing, brick by brick, ambition by ambition, year after year. And number 1, Window of the World. The most ambitious miniature world ever built, where more than 130 of the planet's greatest landmarks stand together at half scale across a park the size of a small city district. Covering nearly 50 hectares, this is the largest miniature world park on the planet, so vast that visitors ride internal transport just to see it all. A 108-meter tall replica of the Eiffel Tower anchors the skyline, standing at 1/3 the real height, still towering over every visitor below. Nearby, the Egyptian pyramids rise from artificial desert sand, their proportions faithful enough that shadows fall exactly as they do at the real Giza Plateau. 130 landmarks from 40 countries stand within walking distance of each other, an achievement no other miniature world has matched. Live cultural performances happen daily beside the replicas, dancers in traditional dress performing beneath a half-scale Notre Dame or Angkor Wat. Building landmarks at half-scale rather than tiny miniature size required real structural engineering, some replicas strong enough to be climbed and explored inside. Since opening in 1994, tens of millions of visitors have circled the entire globe here without ever needing a single passport stamp. From a quiet Dutch canal town to an entire planet rebuilt in one afternoon, these miniature worlds prove that big dreams can fit into the smallest spaces. Which one would you visit first? Subscribe to Mini World Atlas, and next time we shrink down the most incredible transport systems ever built in miniature.